Focus on solutions, not problems. A practical guide to clear thinking, better decisions, and real results. Most people spend their lives thinking about problems. They analyze them, they talk about them, they replay them, they worry about them, they complain about them. Very few people consistently solve them. This is not because problems are too difficult. It is because attention is misplaced. A problem-focused mind looks backward and downward. A solution-focused mind looks forward and outward. One drains energy, the other creates movement. You have likely been taught, directly or indirectly, to examine problems deeply, to understand them, to dissect them, to discuss them at length. Understanding problems has value, but obsession with problems creates paralysis. Overthinking feels productive. It gives the illusion of control. It gives the illusion of intelligence. It gives the illusion of progress. But motion does not come from analysis alone. Progress comes from building, testing, adjusting, and moving again. A person who studies a problem for 10 hours without acting has not moved forward. A person who tests a small solution in 10 minutes has already begun. The difference is not intelligence. The difference is orientation. You are not defined by the number of problems you encounter. You are defined by how quickly you move towards solutions. Life guarantees friction. Work guarantees uncertainty. Business guarantees setbacks. Relationships guarantee misunderstanding. Health guarantees fluctuation. Problems are normal. They are not signals that something has gone wrong. They are signals that something requires adjustment. When you train yourself to focus on solutions, several changes occur. You become calmer under pressure. You make decisions faster. You recover quicker from mistakes. You waste less time on emotional spirals. You gain confidence through action. Confidence is not built by thinking about solutions. It is built by attempting them. Each attempt creates feedback. Feedback creates clarity. Clarity creates better solutions. Better solutions create momentum. Momentum builds belief. Most stress does not come from the presence of problems. It comes from feeling stuck inside them. When you shift your attention toward solutions, you regain agency. You regain direction. You regain movement. This book is not about positive thinking. It is not about pretending problems do not exist. It is not about ignoring difficulty. It is about discipline. The discipline to pause instead of panic. The discipline to think clearly instead of emotionally. The discipline to act instead of ruminate. The discipline to adjust instead of complain. The discipline to move forward even when outcomes are uncertain. A solution-focused mindset is not natural for most people. It is trained. It is built through repetition. It is reinforced through action. It becomes identity through consistency. You do not become solution-focused by reading about it once. You become solution-focused by practicing it daily. Every day offers opportunities. A delayed project, a difficult conversation, a mistake, a missed opportunity, a stressful moment. Each moment offers a choice. Stay in problem mode, or move into solution mode. Problem mode asks, why is this happening? Who caused this? What if this gets worse? What if I fail? What if I'm not ready? Solution mode asks, what can I do now? What is the next step? What is within my control? What is a workable option? What moves this forward? One set of questions creates tension. The other creates movement. You do not need perfect answers. You need workable ones. You do not need certainty. You need direction. You do not need to eliminate all problems. You need to become someone who solves them consistently. This book will give you practical frameworks. You will learn how to pause under pressure. Separate facts from noise, make decisions without paralysis. Take action before you feel ready. Adjust without panic. Communicate for solutions. Build daily solution-focused habits. Lead yourself through uncertainty. Develop long-term resilience. This is not about becoming fearless. It is about becoming steady. It is not about removing difficulty. It is about responding to difficulty with clarity. When you focus on solutions, you reduce unnecessary suffering. You shorten recovery time. You increase progress. You strengthen confidence. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You start building momentum. The goal is not to eliminate problems from your life. That is impossible. The goal is to reduce the time you spend trapped inside them. You will still face challenges. You will still make mistakes. You will still encounter uncertainty. But you will move faster. You will recover quicker. You will think clearer. You will act sooner. This is how progress compounds. A solution-focused person does not live without problems. They live with direction. They do not avoid stress entirely. They manage it through action. They do not wait for clarity. They create it. They do not hope for progress. They build it. This shift is available to you. It is trainable. It is repeatable. It is practical. You do not need to become a different person overnight. You need to begin making different choices. Small choices. Repeated consistently. Pause instead of panic. Clarify instead of assume. Decide instead of delay. Act instead of overthink. Adjust instead of complain. Over time, these choices form identity. You become someone who solves. And when you become someone who solves, you stop fearing problems. Because you trust your ability to respond. You trust your ability to adapt. You trust your ability to move forward. This book will guide you through that shift. Not through theory, through practice, not through hype, through discipline, not through promises, through frameworks you can apply immediately. You do not need to remove problems from your life to feel progress. You need to respond to them differently. Problems will always exist. Progress belongs to those who solve. If you haven't liked the video yet, please do give it a like. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, kindly subscribe and press the bell icon so that you keep receiving notifications for all our new videos. Chapter 1. Why most people stay stuck in problem mode. Most people believe they are trying to solve their problems. In reality, they are often studying them, replaying them, and emotionally reacting to them far more than they are solving them. This is not a flaw in intelligence. It is a flaw in orientation. When something goes wrong, the mind naturally focuses on the disruption. It wants to understand what happened. It wants to assign meaning. It wants to prevent future pain. These instincts are normal. They exist to protect you. But protection and progress are not the same. A mind that stays too long in analysis becomes trapped in the problem itself. Instead of moving forward, it circles. Instead of building options, it builds tension. Most people do not realize how much time they spend inside problem mode. They assume they are being responsible. They assume they are being thoughtful. They assume they are preparing for better outcomes. What they are actually doing is delaying action. Problem mode is comfortable in a strange way. It gives the illusion of control. When you analyze something repeatedly, you feel engaged. You feel involved. You feel like you are doing something. But thinking about a problem is not the same as solving it. You can spend hours replaying a mistake without creating a single solution. You can talk about obstacles endlessly without taking one step forward. You can worry about outcomes without improving them. Movement only begins when attention shifts toward solutions. Understanding why people stay stuck in problem mode is the first step toward leaving it. The comfort of problem obsession. It may seem strange to call problem obsession comfortable, but it often is. When you stay focused on what is wrong, you avoid the risk of trying something that might fail. You avoid making decisions. You avoid taking responsibility for outcomes. You avoid the discomfort of action. In problem mode, you are busy. But you are not exposed. You can analyze a situation endlessly without risking embarrassment. You can complain without risking failure. You can discuss what should happen without testing what might happen. This creates a subtle sense of safety. But safety in this context is misleading. While you stay in analysis, time passes. Opportunities shrink. Energy drains. Confidence erodes. The longer you remain in problem mode, the heavier the problem feels. What may have been manageable at first begins to look overwhelming. This happens because action reduces uncertainty. Inaction expands it. When you take even a small step, you gain information. When you gain information, the problem becomes clearer. When the problem becomes clearer, options appear. Without action, everything remains vague. Vague problems feel larger than they are. Problem obsession is often a form of avoidance disguised as responsibility. You may believe you are being careful. In reality, you may be delaying movement. The shift begins when you notice how often you revisit the same problem without testing a solution. Emotional reaction versus logical response. When something goes wrong, emotion arrives first. This is normal. It happens quickly and automatically. A missed deadline, a financial setback, a mistake at work, or a difficult conversation can trigger frustration, anxiety, or disappointment. Emotion is not the problem. Unmanaged emotion is. When emotion takes over, thinking narrows. You see fewer options. You imagine worst-case scenarios. You interpret events more negatively than they are. You may assume the situation is permanent or catastrophic. This emotional lens makes problems appear larger and more urgent than they actually are. A logical response requires a pause. The pause does not remove emotion. It creates space around it. It gives your thinking a chance to catch up. Without a pause, reaction becomes action. You may say things you regret. You may make rushed decisions. You may withdraw entirely. You may delay addressing the issue. With a pause, response becomes possible. A response asks, what actually happened? What matters most right now? What is within my control? What is the next step? These questions shift the mind from reaction to direction. Most people never practice this pause. They move directly from emotional reaction into complaint, blame, or avoidance. Over time, this becomes habitual. To leave problem mode, you must shorten the gap between reaction and response. You cannot eliminate emotional reactions, but you can decide how long they last and what happens next. Why stress loops form. Stress loops are patterns of thinking that repeat without producing progress. They often begin with a genuine problem. Something goes wrong. You notice it. You feel tension. You want resolution. Instead of moving toward a solution, the mind begins asking unproductive questions. Why does this always happen to me? Why can't things go smoothly? What if this gets worse? What if I fail? What if people judge me? What if I can't fix this? These questions amplify emotion. They do not create direction. The brain treats repeated questions as signals of importance. The more you ask these questions, the more attention the problem receives. The more attention it receives, the larger it feels. Soon, the problem occupies your mental space even when you are not actively addressing it. It appears in the background of your thoughts. It interrupts focus. It drains energy. Stress loops feel productive because they are active. You are thinking. You are analyzing. You are considering possibilities. But none of this thinking produces action. The loop continues until something interrupts it. That interruption can be a decision, a step, or a reframing. Instead of asking, why is this happening? You ask, what can I do next? Instead of asking, what if this gets worse? You ask, what reduces the impact right now? Instead of asking, who caused this? You ask, what improves the situation? This shift in questioning breaks the loop. Stress loops thrive on backward-looking and hypothetical questions. Solutions grow from forward-looking and practical questions. Mental habits that block solutions. Several mental habits keep people stuck in problem mode. These habits often operate automatically. You may not notice them unless you deliberately observe your thinking. 1. Blame. Blame directs attention outward or backward. It focuses on who caused the problem or why it should not have happened. Blame can sometimes identify useful information, but when it becomes the primary focus, it delays solutions. You can spend hours assigning responsibility without improving the situation. Even when someone else caused the issue, your progress depends on what you do next. Solution-focused thinking asks, regardless of cause, what improves this now? This does not remove accountability. It prioritizes progress. 2. Catastrophizing. Catastrophizing is the habit of imagining the worst possible outcome. It turns manageable issues into imagined disasters. A small delay becomes a major failure. A mistake becomes a permanent setback. A difficult conversation becomes a relationship-ending conflict. This exaggeration increases stress. It reduces clarity. It narrows thinking. When you assume the worst, you prepare for collapse instead of improvement. A solution-focused approach asks, what is the realistic impact? What is the immediate issue? What reduces the damage? Accuracy creates calm. Calm creates options. 3. Perfectionism. Perfectionism delays action. It convinces you that you must have the perfect plan, the perfect timing, or the perfect answer before moving forward. This keeps you in problem mode. You analyze. You refine. You wait. You hesitate. You postpone. Meanwhile, the situation remains unchanged. Solutions rarely appear fully formed. They are built through testing and adjustment. Imperfect action provides feedback. Feedback leads to better action. Perfectionism seeks certainty before movement. Solution thinking accepts movement before certainty. 4. Avoidance. Avoidance is one of the most common habits in problem mode. When something feels uncomfortable, the mind looks for distraction. You may delay a conversation. You may postpone a decision. You may ignore an issue. You may tell yourself you will deal with it later. Avoidance reduces short-term discomfort. It increases long-term stress. Problems rarely disappear when ignored. They grow, compound, or resurface. A solution-focused mindset engages with the issue early, even in small ways. Early engagement reduces intensity. It creates control. 5. Indecision. Indecision feels safe. When you do not choose, you cannot be wrong. When you delay action, you avoid risk. But indecision has a cost. It extends uncertainty. It keeps you in the same place. It prevents feedback. A workable decision is often better than a perfect one made too late. Solutions evolve through movement. Indecision freezes evolution. 6. Overanalysis. Overanalysis is the habit of examining every detail repeatedly without moving toward action. You gather information. You consider possibilities. You weigh outcomes. You imagine scenarios. Some analysis is necessary. Too much becomes paralysis. At some point, thinking stops adding value. It begins to delay. The shift occurs when you ask, do I have enough information to try something? If the answer is yes, movement is more valuable than additional thinking. The illusion of productivity. One reason people stay in problem mode is that it feels productive. You may spend hours discussing an issue with others. You may research solutions endlessly. You may write lists. You may analyze scenarios. These activities can create the feeling of progress without actual movement. Real productivity produces change. It produces feedback. It produces results. If nothing changes after hours of thinking, you are still in problem mode. This does not mean thinking is useless. It means thinking must lead to action. A simple test helps. After spending time thinking about a problem, ask, what step have I taken? If the answer is none, you are still circling. Awareness as the first step. You cannot shift out of problem mode without awareness. Most people operate on mental autopilot. They react the same way repeatedly without noticing the pattern. Awareness interrupts autopilot. Start observing your reactions to difficulty. When something goes wrong, what happens first? Do you complain? Do you replay events? Do you delay decisions? Do you seek reassurance? Do you avoid action? There is no need for judgment. The goal is observation. Once you notice the pattern, you can interrupt it. You can pause before speaking. You can ask a solution-focused question. You can take a small step. You can shift attention. Awareness creates choice. Choice creates change. The cost of staying in problem mode. Remaining in problem mode has consequences. It increases stress. It reduces confidence. It delays progress. It drains energy. It weakens decision-making. Over time, it can create a sense of helplessness. You begin to believe problems control your life rather than the other way around. This belief is inaccurate. You cannot control every situation. You can control your response. When you respond consistently with solution-focused thinking, your sense of control increases. You begin to trust your ability to handle difficulty. This trust reduces anxiety. Confidence does not come from having no problems. It comes from solving them repeatedly. Shifting orientation. The shift from problem mode to solution mode is not dramatic. It is subtle and repeatable. It begins with a simple redirection of attention. From, "Why is this happening?" to, "What is the next step?" From, "This is overwhelming," to, "What is one part one can address?" From, "This shouldn't be happening," to, "What improves this now?" This shift does not eliminate difficulty. It reduces stagnation. Over time, your brain learns the new pattern. Instead of spiraling, it searches for options. Instead of delaying, it moves. The more you practice, the faster the shift becomes. Eventually, solution mode feels natural. A practical awareness exercise. For the next week, practice noticing when you enter problem mode. Each time you encounter a difficulty, pause and ask, "Am I analyzing or solving? Am I reacting or responding? Am I circling or moving?" Then choose one small action. Send the email, make the call, write the plan, clarify the issue, test an option. The action does not need to be perfect. It needs to exist. Movement breaks the loop. Most people do not stay stuck because their problems are unsolvable. They stay stuck because their attention remains on the problem. Attention determines direction. Direction determines progress. You cannot eliminate problems from your life. You can eliminate the habit of living inside them. When you notice yourself circling, pause. When you notice yourself complaining, redirect. When you notice yourself delaying, act. Awareness begins the shift. Action sustains it. You cannot solve what you only complain about. Chapter 2: The Shift: Training Your Brain to Look for Solutions. A solution-focused mindset is not something you either have or do not have. It is something you train. Your brain adapts to whatever it practices most. If you repeatedly focus on problems, your mind becomes efficient at spotting what is wrong. If you repeatedly focus on solutions, your mind becomes efficient at finding what works. This shift does not happen through motivation. It happens through repetition and discipline. Most people wait for clarity before they act. Solution-focused people act in order to create clarity. Most people wait until they feel ready. Solution-focused people begin before they feel ready and adjust as they go. This chapter is about training your attention, your language, and your decisions so that your mind automatically searches for solutions instead of dwelling on problems. The shift is deliberate at first. With practice, it becomes natural. Awareness and the strategic pause. Every solution-focused response begins with awareness. You cannot redirect your thinking if you do not notice where it is going. Most people react quickly when something goes wrong. They speak quickly, think quickly, and often escalate the situation without realizing it. The first skill to build is the pause. The pause is not hesitation. It is control. When something unexpected happens, stop for a moment. Take a breath. Let the immediate emotional reactions settle slightly. Then ask yourself one question. What matters most right now? This question shifts your brain away from emotional reaction and toward practical thinking. Without the pause, you react. With the pause, you respond. The pause can be short. A few seconds is enough. But those few seconds can prevent hours of unnecessary stress. During the pause, avoid dramatic interpretations. Avoid assigning blame. Avoid imagining the worst. Instead, gather yourself and prepare to move into solution mode. Over time, this pause becomes automatic. You will notice yourself stepping back internally before responding externally. This single habit can change how you handle pressure, conflict, and uncertainty. Reframing challenges without denying reality. Reframing is often misunderstood. It is not about pretending problems are easy. It is about seeing them accurately and usefully. When something goes wrong, your first interpretation often exaggerates the difficulty. You may think, this is a disaster, or everything is ruined, or I can't recover from this. These interpretations create emotional intensity. They narrow your thinking and delay solutions. A solution-focused reframe asks, what is the actual problem here? What is the size of this issue in reality? What part of this situation can be addressed immediately? This kind of reframing does not remove difficulty. It removes exaggeration. Instead of, this is overwhelming, you say, this has several parts. I will handle one part first. Instead of, this always happens to me, you say, this happened. What can I do next? Instead of, I'm stuck, you say, I haven't chosen a next step yet. Reframing changes your relationship with the problem. It turns a vague emotional experience into a defined situation that can be addressed. This is not positive thinking. It is accurate thinking. Accuracy reduces stress. Reduced stress improves decision-making. Improved decisions lead to better outcomes. Training your attention toward action. Attention is a limited resource. Where you direct it determines your experience. If your attention stays on what went wrong, your mind remains in analysis and emotion. If your attention shifts toward what can be done, your mind moves into planning and action. You must deliberately train your attention. When a problem appears, ask a set of consistent questions. What is the immediate issue? What needs to happen next? What is within my control? What reduces the impact right now? What is a small step I can take? These questions direct attention toward action. You do not need a complete plan. You need a starting point. Many problems feel large because they are undefined. Once you define the next step, the problem becomes manageable. For example, if a project is behind schedule, the mind may jump to conclusions about failure. But a solution-focused approach asks, what is the current status? What remains to be done? What can be completed today? Who needs to be informed? What is the revised timeline? These questions move you forward. The more often you ask action-oriented questions, the more automatic they become. Eventually, your brain begins searching for steps instead of dwelling on obstacles. The language of solutions. Language influences thinking more than most people realize. The words you use internally and externally shape how you perceive situations. When your language is dramatic, your thinking becomes dramatic. When your language is practical, your thinking becomes practical. Solution-focused language is specific, calm, and forward-moving. Instead of saying, "This is a mess," say, "This needs to be organized." Instead of, "I don't know what to do," say, "I need a starting point." Instead of, "This is impossible," say, "This is difficult. What is one option?" Instead of, "Everything is going wrong," say, "Several things need attention. I will address one." This shift may seem small, but it has a large impact. Language shapes emotion. Emotion shapes action. When you speak in solution-focused language, you reduce panic and increase clarity. You signal to your brain that movement is possible. Be especially aware of how you speak to yourself. Internal language is powerful. If you repeatedly tell yourself that situations are hopeless, overwhelming, or impossible, your mind will believe it. If you repeatedly tell yourself that situations require steps, adjustments, and decisions, your mind will begin to look for them. Your words direct your attention. Your attention directs your behavior. Practicing daily shifts. You do not build a solution mindset by waiting for major problems. You build it by practicing on small ones. Every day presents minor challenges. A delayed message, a scheduling conflict, a misunderstanding, a mistake, a technical issue, a change in plans. Each of these moments is an opportunity to practice shifting from problem mode to solution mode. When something small goes wrong, notice your reaction. Pause, reframe, choose a step, act. These small repetitions train your brain. They create a pattern. Over time, you will notice that you spend less time complaining and more time adjusting. You will notice that you recover faster from disruptions. You will notice that you feel more in control. This is not because problems disappear. It is because your response improves. Consistency matters more than intensity. You do not need dramatic changes. You need repeated small shifts. Each shift reinforces the identity of someone who solves rather than someone who dwells. Building a solution-oriented default. At first, focusing on solutions requires effort. You must remind yourself to pause, to reframe, and to act. Over time, these steps become automatic. Your brain begins to expect movement instead of rumination. When something goes wrong, you will notice yourself thinking, "What now? What next? What helps? What reduces this?" This becomes your default orientation. A solution-oriented default does not eliminate emotion. You will still feel frustration, disappointment, or stress. But you will not stay there long. Your mind will move toward response quickly. This is the goal, not perfection. Speed of recovery. The faster you shift from reaction to response, the less time you spend in unnecessary stress. A structured shift framework. To make this shift practical, use a simple framework whenever a problem appears. Step 1. Pause. Take one breath. Create space between reaction and response. Step 2. Define. What is the actual issue? Be specific. Step 3. Control. What part of this is within my control? Step 4. Choose. What is one workable step? Step 5. Act. Take the step, even if it is small. Step 6. Adjust. Observe the result and choose the next step. This framework prevents spiraling. It creates movement. It turns vague stress into defined action. You can apply it to work, business, relationships, health, and daily tasks. The more often you use it, the faster it becomes. Handling resistance. You may notice resistance when you try to shift your thinking. Part of you may want to stay in problem mode. This is normal. The mind prefers familiar patterns, even when they are unhelpful. You may think, "I need to analyze more. I'm not ready to act. What if I make the wrong decision? What if this doesn't work?" These thoughts are common. They are not signals to stop. They are signals that you are leaving your usual pattern. You do not need certainty to act. You need a starting point. Even small actions reduce resistance. Once you begin, momentum builds. Once momentum builds, clarity increases. Action often produces the confidence you are waiting for. The role of imperfect solutions. One reason people stay in problem mode is the belief that solutions must be perfect. They do not. Most solutions are temporary or partial. They improve the situation enough to allow further progress. They reduce pressure. They create space. A temporary solution is valuable. A partial solution is valuable. A test is valuable. Waiting for a perfect solution delays progress. Testing a workable solution creates information. Information leads to better decisions. Better decisions lead to stronger solutions. Perfection is not required for progress. Movement is. Daily training exercise. At the end of each day, reflect on one problem you encountered. Ask yourself, did I stay in problem mode or move to solution mode? Where did I delay action? What could I have done sooner? What will I do next time? Then identify one situation for tomorrow where you will deliberately shift faster. This daily reflection strengthens awareness. It turns abstract ideas into practical habits. Training your brain to look for solutions is a deliberate process. It requires awareness, repetition, and discipline. You will not shift overnight, but you can shift consistently. Pause when problems appear. Reframe them accurately. Direct your attention toward action. Use practical language. Take small steps. Adjust as needed. Over time, this becomes natural. Your mind begins to search for movement instead of dwelling on obstacles. You stop asking, "Why is this happening?" You start asking, "What do I do now?" This is the shift that creates progress. What you focus on expands. Focus on solutions. Chapter 3: Emotional Control During Stressful Situations. A solution-focused mindset depends on emotional control, not emotional suppression, not pretending everything is fine, not ignoring stress. Emotional control means you feel what you feel without letting it dictate your decisions. When pressure rises, most people react before they think. They speak too quickly, they decide too quickly, or they freeze entirely. In those moments, problems grow larger than they are. Clarity disappears. Options narrow. A calm mind sees more paths. An agitated mind sees only threats. If you want to become consistently solution-focused, you must train your ability to remain steady under pressure. Calm is not a personality trait. It is a practiced skill. This chapter is about developing emotional control so that you can think clearly and act effectively when situations are stressful. Understanding stress reactions. Stress is a biological response. When something feels threatening or uncertain, your nervous system prepares for action. Your heart rate increases. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your muscles tense. Your thinking speeds up. This response is useful in emergencies. It is less useful in daily problem solving. When stress rises in work or life situations, the body reacts as if there is immediate danger. But most modern problems require thinking, not fighting or fleeing. The challenge is not to eliminate stress. The challenge is to prevent stress from controlling your behavior. When stress takes over, you may overreact. Say things you regret. Make rushed decisions. Avoid decisions. Assume the worst. Lose focus. Delay action. These reactions create additional problems. The goal is not to remove the stress response entirely. That is unrealistic. The goal is to shorten it and regain control quickly. Slowing down the moment. The first step in emotional control is slowing down the moment. When something stressful happens, your instinct may be to respond immediately. You may want to explain, defend, react, or fix the issue instantly. Resist this impulse. Take one slow breath, then another. Let your exhale last slightly longer than your inhale. This simple act sends a signal to your nervous system that you are not in immediate danger. Your body begins to calm. Your thinking becomes clearer. You can do this anywhere. Before responding to a message. Before entering a difficult conversation. After receiving unexpected news. When a mistake occurs. When pressure rises. Slowing down does not mean avoiding the issue. It means preparing yourself to respond effectively. A calm response is more productive than a fast reaction. The difference between reaction and response. A reaction is automatic. A response is deliberate. A reaction happens before you think. A response happens after you think. Most people move directly from stress to reaction. They speak quickly, act quickly, or withdraw quickly. Later, they realize their response was not helpful. The goal is not to eliminate reactions. They will happen. The goal is to insert a response immediately afterward. When you feel a strong emotional reaction, acknowledge it internally. You might think, I feel frustrated. I feel anxious. I feel pressured. Naming the emotion reduces its intensity. It creates a small amount of distance between you and the feeling. Then shift to response mode by asking, what is needed right now? What is the next step? What will improve this situation? This transition can happen in seconds. With practice, it becomes automatic. Avoiding emotional escalation. Stressful situations often escalate because of emotional reactions. A tense email leads to an impulsive reply. An unexpected mistake leads to panic. A disagreement leads to defensiveness. A delay leads to frustration. Each reaction increases tension. Increased tension reduces clarity. Reduced clarity leads to poor decisions. You can interrupt escalation by lowering your emotional intensity early. When you notice stress rising, slow your breathing. Relax your shoulders. Lower your voice. Slow your speech. These physical adjustments influence your mental state. They signal control. They create stability. Even if the situation remains difficult, your response becomes more effective. Maintaining clarity under pressure. Pressure narrows thinking. It makes everything feel urgent and overwhelming. You may feel like you must solve everything at once. You do not. When under pressure, simplify the situation. Ask yourself, what is actually happening? What is the most important issue? What can wait? What is one step I can take now? These questions reduce complexity. They help you focus on what matters. You cannot solve 10 problems at once. You can address one problem at a time. Clarity comes from reducing the situation to manageable parts. Once you identify the next step, take it. Then reassess. This approach keeps you moving forward without becoming overwhelmed. Building calm as a skill. Calm is often misunderstood. Some people assume calmness is a natural personality trait. They believe certain people are simply more composed than others. In reality, calm is a trained response. Every time you handle a stressful situation without escalating it, you reinforce calm behavior. Every time you pause before reacting, you strengthen control. Every time you respond deliberately instead of emotionally, you build resilience. Calm grows through repetition. You can practice calm in small situations, when a task takes longer than expected, when someone disagrees with you, when plans change, when a minor mistake occurs, when you feel rushed. Use these moments as training. Pause, breathe, clarify, respond. Over time, your nervous system learns that not every problem requires panic. It learns that you can handle difficulty without escalating. This training prepares you for larger challenges. Emotional control and decision-making. Strong emotions often lead to poor decisions. When you are angry, you may say too much. When you are anxious, you may avoid decisions. When you are overwhelmed, you may delay action. Emotional control improves decision-making. When you remain steady, you can evaluate options more clearly. You can consider consequences without exaggerating them. You can choose workable solutions instead of reactive ones. If you notice that you are highly emotional, delay major decisions briefly. Give yourself time to regain clarity. Then return to the situation with a calmer perspective. This does not mean avoiding decisions entirely. It means choosing the right moment to make them. The role of perspective. Stress often makes situations feel permanent and catastrophic. You may believe that a mistake will ruin everything or that a setback will have lasting consequences. Perspective reduces this intensity. Ask yourself, will this matter in a week? Will this matter in a month? Is this a temporary problem? What is the realistic impact? Most problems are temporary. Most mistakes are recoverable. Most setbacks are adjustable. When you see the situation accurately, your emotional response becomes more balanced. Balanced emotion leads to better solutions. Practicing recovery speed. You will not remain calm all the time. You will have moments of frustration, anxiety, or stress. This is normal. The goal is not perfect control. The goal is fast recovery. When you notice that you have reacted emotionally, reset quickly. Pause, breathe, refocus. Choose a next step. Do not spend time criticizing yourself for reacting. That only prolongs the emotional state. Instead, move into response mode as soon as possible. The faster you recover, the less impact the reaction has. Over time, your recovery speed improves. You move from reaction to response faster and more consistently. A practical control framework. Use this simple framework when stress rises. Step 1. Notice. Recognize that you are feeling stressed or emotional. Step 2. Pause. Take one slow breath. Create space. Step 3. Name. Identify the emotion without judgment. Step 4. Clarify. Ask what actually needs to be addressed. Step 5. Choose. Identify one next step. Step 6. Act. Take the step calmly. This framework turns emotional moments into structured responses. You can use it in conversations, at work, during decision-making, and in personal situations. The more often you use it, the more natural it becomes. Daily practice. To strengthen emotional control, practice daily reflection. At the end of each day, ask, when did I feel stressed today? How did I react? How quickly did I regain control? What would I do differently next time? This reflection builds awareness. Awareness leads to improvement. You can also practice calming techniques during neutral moments. Slow breathing, posture adjustments, and deliberate pauses can all be trained when you are not under pressure. This makes them easier to use when stress appears. Emotional control is not about becoming emotionless. It is about becoming steady. You will feel stress. You will face pressure. You will encounter uncertainty. But you can choose how long those emotions control your thinking. Pause before reacting. Slow the moment. Clarify the issue. Choose a response. Act calmly. Each time you do this, you strengthen your ability to handle difficulty. Each time you remain steady, you improve your outcomes. Calm thinking creates better outcomes. Chapter 4. Clear thinking. Separating facts from noise. Most problems feel larger than they are because they are unclear. When a situation is vague, emotional, and undefined, the mind fills in gaps with assumptions. It imagines worst-case outcomes. It adds unnecessary complexity. It treats possibilities as facts. This creates confusion. Confusion delays action. Delayed action allows problems to grow. Clear thinking reduces unnecessary stress and improves decisions. It allows you to see what is actually happening instead of what you fear might happen. You do not need to be exceptionally intelligent to think clearly. You need discipline. Clear thinking is the ability to separate facts from assumptions, priorities from distractions, and real problems from imagined ones. When your thinking becomes clearer, solutions become easier to see. Why noise dominates thinking? Noise is anything that distracts from the real issue. It includes assumptions, emotional reactions, unverified information, speculation, overcomplication, irrelevant details, other people's opinions, catastrophic thinking. Noise feels important. It demands attention. It makes situations feel urgent and complex. Facts are different. Facts are simple. Facts are specific. Facts are observable. Most stressful situations contain a mix of facts and noise. If you treat noise as fact, you will respond to the wrong problem. For example, if a project deadline is missed, the fact may be, the deadline was not met. The noise may include, this will ruin everything. People will lose trust. This always happens. I'm not capable. This will lead to major consequences. These thoughts increase stress. They do not clarify the situation. Clear thinking removes noise and identifies facts first. Identifying the actual problem. Many people try to solve problems before defining them clearly. They respond to symptoms instead of causes. They address side issues instead of the core issue. Before taking action, ask, what exactly is the problem? What happened? What is the immediate impact? What needs to be corrected? Write the problem in one sentence. Keep it simple and factual. Instead of, everything is going wrong. Write, the project is 2 days behind schedule. Instead of, this situation is a disaster. Write, the client needs updated information. Instead of, I'm overwhelmed. Write, I have 5 tasks due today and need to prioritize them. Defining the problem reduces emotional intensity. It creates a target for action. You cannot solve a vague problem. You can solve a defined one. Facts versus assumptions. One of the most important skills in clear thinking is separating facts from assumptions. Facts are verifiable. Assumptions are interpretations. For example, fact, a message has not been answered. Assumption, the person is ignoring me. Fact, sales decreased this month. Assumption, the business is failing. Fact, a mistake occurred. Assumption, everything is ruined. Assumptions often feel true because they are emotional, but they are not always accurate. When you act on assumptions, you may address the wrong issue. To clarify, ask, what do I know for certain? What am I assuming? What information do I need? This process reduces unnecessary stress and prevents overreaction. Often, once you identify the facts, the situation becomes less dramatic than it first appeared. Avoiding catastrophic thinking. Catastrophic thinking is the habit of imagining the worst possible outcome. It turns small problems into imagined disasters. It increases stress and reduces clarity. You may think, this mistake will ruin everything. This delay will cause major failure. This disagreement will end the relationship. This setback will last forever. These thoughts feel real in the moment, but they are usually exaggerated. To counter this habit, ask, what is the most likely outcome? What is the realistic impact? What can be corrected? What is within my control? Most problems are temporary and manageable. They may require effort, but they are rarely permanent. Accurate thinking reduces panic. Reduced panic improves decision-making. Better decisions improve outcomes. Simplifying complexity. When faced with a complex situation, many people try to solve everything at once. This creates overwhelm. It makes the problem feel larger than it is. Instead, break the situation into parts. Ask, what are the components of this problem? Which part matters most right now? What can be addressed first? Focus on one part at a time. If a project has multiple issues, address the most urgent one first. If several tasks need attention, choose the one that creates the most progress. You do not need to solve everything immediately. You need to create movement. Simplifying complexity creates clarity. Clarity creates action. Action creates momentum. Eliminating mental clutter. Mental clutter includes everything that distracts from the real issue. This may include other people's opinions, irrelevant details, past mistakes, future worries, unrelated problems. When you think about too many things at once, you lose focus. You may feel overwhelmed even when the actual issue is manageable. To eliminate clutter, write down the problem and the next step. Keep it visible. Focus only on what needs to happen now. If unrelated worries appear, note them and return to the task. This prevents them from dominating your attention. Clear thinking requires focus. Focus requires removing distractions. The role of questions. Clear thinking improves when you ask better questions. Unproductive questions include: why is this happening to me? Why is everything difficult? What if this gets worse? Who is to blame? These questions increase emotion but do not create solutions. Productive questions include: what is the actual issue? What information do I need? What options are available? What is the next step? What reduces the impact? The questions you ask determine the direction of your thinking. If you ask dramatic questions, you create dramatic thinking. If you ask practical questions, you create practical thinking. Train yourself to ask solution-oriented questions consistently. Thinking in steps. Clear thinking often comes from thinking in steps rather than all at once. When faced with a problem, identify the next step only. You do not need the entire path immediately. You need direction. For example, if a task is behind schedule, the next step may be to review progress. If a conversation is needed, the next step may be to schedule it. If a decision is required, the next step may be to gather key information. Once you complete the next step, reassess. Then choose another step. This step-by-step approach prevents overwhelm. It keeps you moving forward. Structured clarity framework. Use this framework whenever you feel overwhelmed or confused. Step 1. Define the problem. Write a simple factual statement. Step 2. Identify facts. List what you know for certain. Step 3. Remove assumptions. Notice what you are imagining or exaggerating. Step 4. Simplify. Break the situation into parts. Step 5. Prioritize. Choose the most important issue. Step 6. Choose a step. Identify one action that improves the situation. Step 7. Act. Take the step and reassess. This framework turns confusion into clarity. Daily clarity practice. At the end of each day, review one situation that caused stress. Ask: what were the facts? What assumptions did I make? Did I exaggerate the problem? What was the real issue? What step improved it? This reflection strengthens clear thinking. It helps you recognize patterns and adjust your responses. Over time, you will notice that many problems are smaller and more manageable than they first appear. The connection between clarity and confidence. Confidence does not come from avoiding problems. It comes from understanding and addressing them. When your thinking is clear, you trust your ability to handle situations. You see problems as tasks rather than threats. You respond calmly instead of reacting emotionally. Clarity reduces fear. Reduced fear improves action. Improved action builds confidence. The more clearly you think, the more capable you feel. Most problems feel overwhelming because they are undefined and emotional. When you separate facts from noise, the situation becomes manageable. Define the issue. Identify the facts. Remove assumptions. Simplify the situation. Choose a step. Act. Clear thinking is the foundation of effective solutions. Without clarity, action is delayed. With clarity, progress begins. Clarity is the foundation of solutions. Chapter 5. Decision-making that moves you forward. Most problems remain unsolved because decisions are delayed. People wait for certainty. They wait for the perfect option. They wait for the right timing. They wait until they feel confident. While they wait, the situation stays the same. Or it becomes more complicated. Indecision feels safe. It protects you from making mistakes. It protects you from criticism. It protects you from responsibility. But it also protects you from progress. A solution-focused life requires decisions. Not perfect decisions. Workable ones. You do not move forward by thinking endlessly. You move forward by choosing, acting, and adjusting. This chapter is about building decision-making that creates movement rather than paralysis. Why indecision feels comfortable. Indecision often appears logical. You may tell yourself that you need more information. You may believe you are being careful. You may think waiting will lead to a better choice. Sometimes this is true. Often it is not. Indecision reduces short-term risk. It avoids immediate consequences. It allows you to delay responsibility. But it increases long-term stress. When you do not decide, you remain in uncertainty. Uncertainty drains energy. Energy loss reduces clarity. Reduced clarity makes decisions harder. Over time, indecision becomes a habit. You start to believe that you need perfect information before acting. You start to believe that mistakes are unacceptable. You start to believe that waiting is safer than moving. In reality, waiting often creates more problems than it prevents. A delayed decision can lead to missed opportunities, growing issues, and increased pressure. Meanwhile, a workable decision creates direction. Direction reduces stress. Direction creates momentum. The goal is not to eliminate mistakes. The goal is to reduce stagnation. The cost of waiting for certainty. Certainty is rare. Most real-world decisions involve incomplete information. If you wait until you are completely sure, you will wait too long. Consider how many decisions you delay because you want to be certain. Starting a project. Addressing a problem. Having a difficult conversation. Adjusting a plan. Changing direction. In each case, waiting for certainty keeps you in the same place. Movement creates information. Information creates clarity. Clarity improves decisions. You often gain more understanding by acting than by thinking. This does not mean acting recklessly. It means recognizing when you have enough information to choose a direction. You rarely need perfect information. You usually need sufficient information. Choosing workable solutions. A workable solution is one that improves the situation enough to create progress. It may not solve everything immediately. It may not be ideal. But it moves you forward. Many people reject workable solutions because they are not perfect. They continue searching for better options while the situation remains unchanged. Instead, ask, does this option improve the situation? Does it reduce the problem? Does it create movement? Can it be adjusted later? If the answer is yes, it is worth testing. Workable solutions create momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence improves future decisions. Perfection is not required for progress. Movement is. The trap of overthinking. Overthinking feels responsible. It feels thorough, but it often delays action. You may analyze every possible outcome. You may imagine every risk. You may try to predict the future. This creates mental fatigue. It also creates fear. The more scenarios you imagine, the more complicated the decision feels. Overthinking often leads to no decision at all. To break this pattern, limit your thinking time. Give yourself a specific window to evaluate options. Then choose. For example, spend 15 minutes reviewing the situation. List 2 or 3 options. Choose one. Act. You can always adjust later. You cannot adjust a decision you never make. Decision speed and confidence. Confidence does not come before decisions. It comes after them. Each time you make a decision and act, you gain feedback. Feedback improves your judgment. Improved judgment increases confidence. If you avoid decisions, you avoid feedback. Without feedback, you cannot improve. Decision-making is a skill. It strengthens with use. Start with smaller decisions. Practice choosing quickly and acting. Notice the results. Adjust. Over time, you will trust your ability to choose. You will spend less time hesitating and more time moving. Evaluating options quickly. You do not need a complex process to evaluate options. A simple structure is enough. When faced with a decision, ask, what are my options? What is the likely outcome of each option? Which option creates the most progress? What is the downside? Can the downside be managed? Often, one option stands out as the most practical. It may not be perfect, but it creates movement. Choose it. If the outcome is not ideal, adjust. Adjustment is part of the process. Very few decisions are permanent. Most can be revised. Imperfect action. Many people delay decisions because they want to avoid mistakes. They believe mistakes will have lasting consequences. In reality, most mistakes are correctable. Imperfect action teaches more than perfect planning. When you act, you learn. When you learn, you improve. When you improve, you make better decisions. Waiting for perfection delays learning. You do not need the best option. You need a workable option. Once you act, you gain clarity. Once you gain clarity, you can refine your approach. Progress is built through iteration, not perfection. The next step, approach. When a decision feels overwhelming, narrow your focus to the next step only. Instead of deciding everything at once, decide what happens next. What is the next action? What information do I need next? Who needs to be informed next? What can I test next? This reduces pressure. It allows you to move forward without needing a complete plan. Once you take the next step, the following step becomes clearer. This approach keeps you moving without becoming stuck in analysis. Managing the fear of being wrong. Fear of being wrong is one of the main reasons people avoid decisions. They worry about judgment, consequences, or failure. But avoiding decisions does not eliminate risk. It often increases it. When you delay action, problems can grow. Opportunities can disappear. Stress can increase. Being wrong occasionally is part of progress. What matters is how quickly you adjust. If a decision does not produce the desired result, you can correct course. You can choose again. You can refine your approach. Mistakes are not permanent. Stagnation can be. Focus on movement rather than perfection. Choose direction rather than certainty. A simple decision framework. Use this framework when facing a decision. Step 1. Define the decision. What needs to be chosen? Step 2. List options. Identify 2 or 3 workable choices. Step 3. Evaluate quickly. Which option improves the situation most? Step 4. Choose. Select the option that creates movement. Step 5. Act. Take the first step immediately. Step 6. Review. Observe the result and adjust if needed. This framework prevents overthinking. It creates structure and momentum. Building a decision habit. To strengthen decision-making, practice daily. Make small decisions quickly. Choose without excessive analysis. Act and observe. Notice how often decisions are reversible. Notice how often workable solutions appear once you begin. Each decision builds confidence. Each action reduces hesitation. Each adjustment improves judgment. Over time, decision-making becomes easier. You spend less time stuck and more time moving. When to slow down. Not all decisions should be fast. Some require more thought. The key is knowing when to slow down. Slow down when the decision has long-term consequences. It significantly affects others. You lack essential information. Emotions are very strong. Even then, avoid endless delay. Set a time to decide. Gather what you need. Choose within that time frame. Deliberate does not mean indefinite. Progress comes from decisions, not perfect decisions, not certain decisions, workable decisions. When you choose, you create direction. When you create direction, you create movement. When you create movement, you gain clarity. Indecision keeps you in problem mode. Decisions move you into solution mode. Choose a direction. Take a step. Adjust as needed. Progress comes from decisions, not perfection. Chapter 6: Action over Analysis. Thinking has value. Planning has value. Preparation has value. But none of these create results without action. Many people understand their problems clearly. They can explain them in detail. They can describe what should be done. They can outline possible solutions. Yet nothing changes. Why? Because action is delayed. Analysis becomes a substitute for movement. Planning becomes a substitute for execution. Discussion becomes a substitute for progress. A solution-focused mindset requires action. Not reckless action, not constant busyness, but consistent, deliberate movement. You do not solve problems by thinking about solutions alone. You solve them by testing, adjusting, and continuing. This chapter is about shifting from analysis to execution in a disciplined way. The comfort of analysis. Analysis feels productive. When you analyze a situation, you are engaged. You are thinking. You are considering possibilities. You are preparing. This can create a sense of progress even when no action is taken. Analysis becomes comfortable because it carries little risk. You can think endlessly without facing consequences. You can refine plans without exposing yourself to failure. But excessive analysis creates distance from reality. It keeps solutions theoretical instead of practical. Real solutions are built through interaction with reality. They are tested. They are adjusted. They evolve. Analysis prepares you. Action teaches you. Without action, analysis remains incomplete. Why people delay action? Action is often delayed for predictable reasons. You may believe you are not ready. You may want more information. You may fear making a mistake. You may want the perfect plan. You may want the right timing. You may want reassurance. These reasons feel valid, but they often mask hesitation. Readiness is rarely complete. Information is rarely perfect. Plans are rarely flawless. Timing is rarely ideal. If you wait for all conditions to be perfect, you will wait too long. Action creates clarity. Clarity improves action. You often learn more in 10 minutes of doing than in hours of thinking. Starting before you feel ready. One of the most useful habits you can build is starting before you feel ready. This does not mean acting carelessly. It means recognizing when you have enough information to begin. Ask yourself, do I understand the basic situation? Do I know the next step? Can I test something small? If the answer is yes, begin. Waiting for complete confidence is ineffective. Confidence grows after action, not before. Each time you start despite uncertainty, you build resilience. You prove to yourself that you can handle the process. You gain feedback. You gain momentum. Momentum reduces hesitation. Hesitation increases stress. Start with small actions. Small actions lead to larger ones. Small steps create momentum. Large problems often feel overwhelming. The mind tries to solve everything at once. This creates paralysis. Instead, focus on small steps. If a project feels too large, identify the first task. If a conversation feels difficult, plan the opening. If a decision feels heavy, gather one piece of information. If a plan feels complex, test one element. Small steps reduce resistance. They create movement without overwhelming you. Once you begin, momentum builds. Once momentum builds, the next step feels easier. Progress becomes visible. You do not need a dramatic start. You need a consistent one. Building confidence through action. Confidence is often misunderstood. Many people believe they must feel confident before acting. In reality, confidence grows from action. Each time you act, you gain experience. Each experience builds understanding. Each understanding improves your judgment. Even when outcomes are not ideal, you learn. You adjust. You improve. If you wait for confidence before acting, you may never begin. If you act despite uncertainty, confidence follows. Confidence is built through repetition. Repetition requires action, testing and iterating. Most solutions are not final when first implemented. They are tested and refined. A plan may work partially. A conversation may improve gradually. A strategy may need adjustment. A process may need revision. This is normal. Instead of expecting immediate perfection, expect iteration. View each action as a test. Observe the result. Adjust accordingly. Testing reduces pressure. It turns decisions into experiments rather than permanent commitments. When you see action as testing, you become more willing to begin. Overcoming the fear of mistakes. Fear of mistakes often prevents action. You may worry about failure, judgment, or negative outcomes. But mistakes are part of progress. Most are correctable. Most provide information that improves future action. Avoiding mistakes entirely leads to stagnation. Making manageable mistakes leads to growth. You do not need to eliminate mistakes. You need to reduce the time you spend avoiding action because of them. When a mistake occurs, review it briefly. Identify what can be improved. Then act again. Mistakes become valuable when they inform your next step. The discipline of consistent action. Action is most effective when it is consistent. Occasional bursts of effort are less valuable than steady progress. Consistency builds momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence improves results. To build consistency, schedule action. Set specific times to work on important tasks. Begin even when motivation is low. Motivation fluctuates. Discipline sustains action. When you act consistently, problems shrink. Tasks become manageable. Progress becomes visible. Consistency reduces stress. Inconsistency increases it. The action framework. Use this framework to shift from analysis to action. Step 1. Define the issue. What needs attention? Step 2. Identify the next step. What is one action that improves the situation? Step 3. Start small. Begin with a manageable step. Step 4. Act immediately. Do not delay once the step is clear. Step 5. Observe. Notice what happens. Step 6. Adjust. Refine your approach based on feedback. This framework prevents overthinking. It creates structure. It builds momentum. Managing overwhelm. When you feel overwhelmed, action may feel difficult. The mind may try to avoid the situation entirely. To manage overwhelm, reduce the scope of action. Instead of solving everything, do one small thing. Instead of completing the entire project, start the first task. Instead of fixing everything at once, address one issue. Action reduces overwhelm. Inaction increases it. Once you begin, clarity improves. Once clarity improves, the next step becomes easier. Action and clarity. Clarity often comes from doing, not thinking. You may spend hours trying to understand a situation. But once you act, you see it more clearly. You notice what works and what does not. You gain practical understanding. Thinking prepares you. Action informs you. Together, they create progress. But without action, thinking remains incomplete. Daily action practice. To build an action-oriented mindset, practice daily. Each morning, identify one task you have been delaying. Break it into a small step. Complete that step early in the day. Notice how it feels to move forward. Notice how progress reduces stress. Notice how clarity improves. At the end of the day, review your actions. What did I start? What did I complete? What did I learn? What will I do next? This reflection reinforces the habit of action. When to pause. Action is important, but constant action without reflection can lead to mistakes. Pause briefly to review progress. Ask, is this working? What needs adjustment? What is the next step? This balance between action and reflection keeps you moving in the right direction. Closing. Analysis has value, but action creates results. You do not need perfect plans. You need workable steps. Start before you feel ready. Take small actions. Build momentum. Adjust as needed. Each action reduces uncertainty. Each step creates progress. Each adjustment improves outcomes. Action clarifies what thinking cannot. Chapter 7. Adaptability. Adjust without panic. No solution works perfectly every time. Plans change. Strategies fail. Timelines shift. Unexpected problems appear. If your mindset depends on everything going as planned, you will feel constant stress. You will interpret adjustments as failures. You will panic when outcomes differ from expectations. A solution-focused life requires adaptability. Adaptability is not about constant change. It is about calm adjustment. When a solution does not work as expected, adaptable people do not collapse into frustration. They observe, they adjust, they continue moving. This chapter is about developing the ability to adjust without panic, to respond to outcomes without emotional escalation, and to maintain forward momentum even when things do not go according to plan. Accepting that plans will change. Many people assume that once they choose a plan, it should work exactly as intended. When it does not, they feel discouraged or frustrated. They interpret the deviation as failure. In reality, most plans require adjustment. A timeline may need revision. A strategy may need refinement. A decision may need updating. A conversation may need follow-up. A project may require a different approach. Change does not mean the plan was wrong. It means the situation evolved. When you expect some level of adjustment, you are less surprised by it. You are less emotional about it. You respond more effectively. Expect variation. Expect feedback. Expect the need to adapt. This expectation reduces frustration and keeps you focused on progress. When solutions fail, not every solution will work. Some will produce partial results. Some will create new problems. Some will need immediate revision. When a solution fails, many people react emotionally. They may feel discouraged, embarrassed, or frustrated. They may question their ability. They may stop trying. A solution-focused mindset treats failure as information. Instead of asking, "Why didn't this work for me?" ask, "What did this reveal? What can be adjusted? What is the next step?" Failure provides feedback. Feedback improves future decisions. If you treat failure as final, you stop learning. If you treat it as information, you improve. Most effective solutions are built through iteration. They are refined over time. They become stronger with adjustment. Adjusting strategy calmly. Adaptability requires calm thinking. When you remain steady, you can evaluate outcomes accurately. When you panic, you may abandon workable solutions too quickly or make impulsive changes. After testing a solution, review the result calmly. Ask, what worked? What did not work? What needs adjustment? What should continue? What should change? Then make a measured adjustment. Avoid drastic changes unless necessary. Small refinements are often more effective than major overhauls. Calm evaluation leads to better decisions. Better decisions lead to better outcomes. Flexible thinking. Rigid thinking creates stress. When you believe there is only one correct way to solve a problem, any deviation feels like failure. Flexible thinking recognizes multiple paths. If one approach does not work, another may. If one method fails, you can try a different method. If one timeline changes, you can revise it. Flexibility does not mean indecision. It means openness to adjustment. When you think flexibly, you see more options. When you see more options, you feel less trapped. When you feel less trapped, you respond more effectively. Staying forward focused. When something goes wrong, it is easy to look backward. You may replay what happened. You may analyze mistakes. You may assign blame. Some review is useful. Excessive review is not. After identifying what needs adjustment, shift your focus forward. What happens next? What improves the situation? What step moves this forward? Forward focus creates movement. Backward focus often creates stagnation. You do not need to ignore the past. You need to learn from it quickly and move on. Managing emotional reactions to setbacks. Setbacks often trigger strong emotions. You may feel disappointed, frustrated, or discouraged. These reactions are normal, but if they last too long, they interfere with adaptation. Allow yourself a brief emotional response. Acknowledge the disappointment, then shift to response mode. Ask, what is still within my control? What can I adjust? What is the next step? This shift shortens recovery time. It prevents setbacks from turning into extended delays. The faster you adapt, the less impact setbacks have. The role of perspective. Perspective helps maintain adaptability. When you see challenges as temporary and manageable, you respond more calmly. When you see them as permanent and catastrophic, you panic. Ask yourself, is this temporary? What is the realistic impact? What can I learn from this? How will I adjust? Most setbacks are temporary. Most problems are solvable. Most situations improve with adjustment. Perspective reduces emotional intensity and improves problem solving. Iteration as a habit. Iteration is the process of testing, adjusting, and improving repeatedly. It is how most effective solutions are built. Instead of expecting immediate success, expect gradual improvement. Test an idea. Observe the result. Adjust. Test again. This process reduces pressure. It turns problem solving into a continuous improvement cycle rather than a single attempt. Iteration builds resilience. It teaches you that progress comes through refinement, not perfection. The adaptability framework. Use this framework when a solution does not work as expected. Step 1. Pause. Avoid reacting emotionally. Step 2. Review. What was the intended outcome? What actually happened? Step 3. Identify. What worked? What did not? Step 4. Adjust what needs to change. Step 5. Implement the adjustment. Step 6. Continue. Repeat the process until progress improves. This framework keeps you moving forward even when plans change. Building adaptability daily. You can strengthen adaptability through daily practice. When small disruptions occur, use them as training. If a schedule changes, adjust calmly. If a task takes longer, revise your plan. If a conversation goes differently, adapt your approach. Each small adjustment builds flexibility. Each calm response strengthens resilience. Over time, adaptability becomes natural. You stop resisting change. You begin working with it. Adaptability and confidence. Confidence grows when you trust your ability to adjust. You no longer fear unexpected problems because you know you can respond effectively. When you adapt successfully, you reinforce this trust. Each adjustment becomes evidence that you can handle change. Confidence is not built by avoiding setbacks. It is built by navigating them. No plan works perfectly every time. No solution is final on the first attempt. Progress requires adjustment. When outcomes differ from expectations, remain calm. Review what happened. Adjust your approach. Continue moving. Adaptability keeps you from getting stuck. It turns obstacles into information. It turns setbacks into direction. Adaptability turns obstacles into direction. Chapter 8: Communication that solves problems. Many problems are not technical. They are communication problems. Misunderstandings create delays. Assumptions create conflict. Silence creates confusion. Emotional language escalates tension. A solution-focused mindset is not only internal. It must extend to how you speak, listen, and interact with others. Most real-world problems involve other people, colleagues, clients, partners, family members, or teams. If communication is unclear, even simple issues can become complicated. Clear communication reduces friction. Constructive communication creates solutions. Poor communication creates additional problems. This chapter is about using communication as a tool for progress instead of a source of stress. Why communication often fails. Communication fails when it becomes emotional, vague, or indirect. You may assume others understand your expectations. You may avoid difficult conversations. You may speak reactively instead of deliberately. You may focus on blame instead of solutions. These patterns create confusion and tension. When communication is unclear, problems linger. When communication is reactive, problems escalate. When communication is avoided, problems grow. Solution-focused communication is different. It is clear, direct, calm, and oriented toward progress. The goal is not to win conversations. The goal is to improve situations. Speaking clearly and directly. Clear communication begins with clarity in your own thinking. If you are unsure of the issue, your message will be unclear. Before speaking, ask yourself, what is the actual problem? What outcome do I want? What needs to happen next? Then express this clearly. Instead of, this situation is frustrating, say, the deadline has changed. We need to adjust the plan. Instead of, this isn't working, say, we need a different approach for this part of the project. Clear statements reduce confusion. They allow others to understand the issue and respond effectively. Avoid vague language. Avoid dramatic language. Be specific and calm. Clarity reduces tension. Specificity improves solutions. Listening for solutions. Communication is not only about speaking. It is also about listening. Most people listen to respond. They prepare their reply while the other person is speaking. This prevents understanding. Solution-focused listening is different. You listen to understand the issue fully. You listen for information that helps improve the situation. When someone explains a problem, ask, what is the core issue? What do they need? What outcome are they hoping for? What part can I help address? Listening carefully prevents misunderstandings. It reveals useful information. It allows you to respond effectively. When people feel heard, they are more open to solutions. When they feel ignored, they become defensive. Listening is not passive. It is active problem solving. Avoiding blame language. Blame language escalates conflict. It makes people defensive. It shifts attention away from solutions. Blame sounds like, you always do this. You caused this problem. This is your fault. You should have known. These statements increase tension. They reduce cooperation. They delay resolution. Solution-focused language avoids blame and focuses on improvement. Instead of, you caused this delay, say, the timeline has shifted. Let's adjust the plan. Instead of, you didn't communicate, say, we need clearer updates moving forward. This approach does not ignore responsibility. It prioritizes progress. Once the situation improves, accountability can be addressed calmly. The goal is not to assign fault immediately. The goal is to improve the situation first. Collaborative thinking. Most problems are easier to solve when approached collaboratively. When people work together toward a solution, progress is faster and more effective. Collaborative communication involves inviting input and sharing responsibility. Ask, what do you think is the best next step? How can we improve this? What would help move this forward? What options do we have? These questions create a shared focus. They encourage cooperation. They reduce defensiveness. Collaboration does not mean avoiding decisions. It means using available perspectives to improve them. When people feel included in problem solving, they are more committed to solutions. Managing difficult conversations. Some conversations are uncomfortable. They involve mistakes, delays, disagreements, or sensitive issues. Avoiding these conversations often makes problems worse. Approach difficult conversations with calm and clarity. Prepare your thoughts. Define the issue. Identify the desired outcome. Choose a calm tone. During the conversation, state the facts. Explain the impact. Ask for input. Focus on solutions. Agree on next steps. Avoid emotional escalation. If tension rises, pause. Return to the purpose of the conversation. Improvement. Difficult conversations are easier when they are solution-focused rather than emotionally charged. Timing and delivery. When and how you communicate matters. Address issues early. Small problems are easier to solve than large ones. Early communication prevents escalation. Choose appropriate timing. Avoid discussing important issues when emotions are high or when attention is limited. Wait until you can speak calmly and clearly. Use a steady tone. Speak at a moderate pace. Avoid raising your voice. Calm delivery encourages calm responses. Communication is not only about what you say. It is about how and when you say it. Clarifying expectations. Many problems occur because expectations are unclear. Tasks may be misunderstood. Deadlines may be assumed. Responsibilities may be vague. To prevent confusion, clarify expectations early. Ask, what is required? Who is responsible? What is the timeline? What is the desired outcome? Confirm understanding. Repeat key points if necessary. Written summaries can help ensure alignment. Clear expectations reduce misunderstandings. Reduced misunderstandings prevent problems. Responding instead of reacting. When communication becomes tense, the instinct may be to react emotionally. This often worsens the situation. Instead, respond deliberately. Pause before replying. Consider the purpose of the conversation. Choose language that moves the situation forward. If someone speaks emotionally, do not mirror their intensity. Maintain a steady tone. Redirect the conversation toward solutions. For example, I understand this is frustrating. Let's focus on what we can do next. This approach reduces escalation and encourages cooperation. The communication framework. Use this framework for solution-focused communication. Step 1. Clarify. What is the issue and desired outcome? Step 2. State facts. Describe the situation clearly and calmly. Step 3. Invite input. Ask for perspectives and ideas. Step 4. Focus on solutions. Discuss what improves the situation. Step 5. Agree on steps. Define what happens next. Step 6. Follow up. Ensure progress and clarity. This structure keeps conversations productive and solution-oriented. Building daily communication habits. Practice clear communication in daily interactions. Be direct but respectful. Listen fully before responding. Avoid unnecessary criticism. Focus on improvement. Confirm understanding. Over time, these habits reduce conflict and improve efficiency. They make problem solving faster and less stressful. Clear communication is a skill. It improves with practice. Communication and leadership. Whether or not you hold a formal leadership role, you lead yourself and influence others through communication. People trust those who communicate clearly. They rely on those who focus on solutions. They respond to those who remain calm under pressure. When you communicate with clarity and purpose, you create stability. Stability encourages progress. Leadership is not about control. It is about direction. Communication provides that direction. Closing. Problems often grow because of poor communication. They shrink when communication is clear, calm, and solution-focused. Speak clearly. Listen carefully. Avoid blame. Focus on improvement. Collaborate on solutions. Confirm next steps. Communication that solves problems reduces stress and creates progress. Solutions grow in clear communication. Chapter 9. Building daily solution-oriented habits. A solution-focused mindset is not built in a single moment of clarity. It is built through daily habits. What you repeat becomes automatic. What becomes automatic becomes your default. Your default determines how you respond when pressure appears. If you only think about solutions occasionally, you will only act on them occasionally. If you build daily habits that reinforce solution-focused thinking, your mind will naturally shift toward action when problems arise. Habits remove the need for constant motivation. They create structure. They create consistency. They make productive behavior easier and more reliable. This chapter is about building routines and practices that make solution-focused thinking part of your daily life. Why habits matter more than intentions. Most people intend to handle problems well. They want to stay calm. They want to think clearly. They want to act quickly. But intention alone does not create change. Habits create change. When you repeat a behavior daily, it becomes easier. It requires less effort. It becomes automatic. Without habits, you rely on willpower. Willpower fluctuates. Habits stabilize behavior. If you want to become solution-focused, you must train your mind every day. Not only when major problems appear, but also during ordinary situations. Small repetitions create strong patterns. Strong patterns create reliable responses. Morning orientation, setting direction early. How you begin your day influences how you respond to problems. If you start your day reactively, checking messages, worrying about tasks, or rushing, you begin in problem mode. If you start with direction, you begin in solution mode. Each morning, take a few minutes to orient yourself. Ask, what matters most today? What needs progress? What is one challenge I may face? What is my first step? Write down the key tasks or priorities. Keep the list simple. Focus on what creates movement. This morning orientation reduces overwhelm. It creates clarity before distractions appear. It prepares your mind to act rather than react. Starting the day with direction makes solution-focused thinking easier throughout the day. Structured thinking time. Many people think constantly but not clearly. Their thoughts move quickly from one issue to another. They worry about multiple things at once. This creates mental clutter. Instead, schedule structured thinking time. Choose a short period each day, 10 to 15 minutes, to review challenges and identify solutions. During this time, write down any issues that require attention. Then, for each issue, identify the next step. This process prevents problems from circulating endlessly in your mind. It moves them onto paper and into action. Structured thinking is different from rumination. It is intentional and time-limited. It produces direction rather than stress. When you know you have time set aside to think clearly, your mind becomes calmer during the rest of the day. The problem-to-solution exercise. One of the most effective daily habits is the problem-to-solution exercise. Whenever a problem appears, write it down. Then immediately write one possible step that improves the situation. For example, problem: a task is behind schedule. Step: review progress and update the timeline. Problem: a conversation is needed. Step: schedule a time to talk. Problem: uncertainty about a decision. Step: Gather key information for 10 minutes. This exercise trains your brain to move quickly from noticing a problem to identifying a step. Over time, the shift becomes automatic. You stop dwelling. You start moving. Journaling for clarity. Journaling is a powerful tool for solution-focused thinking when used correctly. The goal is not to write emotionally for long periods. The goal is to clarify and direct. Each day, spend a few minutes writing about one challenge you faced. How you responded, what worked, what you will do next time. Keep it brief and practical. This reflection reinforces learning. It helps you recognize patterns. It strengthens your ability to respond better in the future. Journaling also reduces mental clutter. When thoughts are written down, they become clearer and less overwhelming. The pause habit. The pause is one of the most valuable habits you can build. When something unexpected happens, pause before reacting. When you feel frustrated, pause before speaking. When you feel pressured, pause before deciding. The pause creates space for clarity. It allows you to choose your response instead of reacting automatically. Practice pausing in small situations throughout the day. When the habit becomes automatic in minor moments, it will be available in major ones. A brief pause can prevent unnecessary conflict, poor decisions, and wasted energy. Daily action targets. Each day, identify one action you have been delaying. It may be small or moderate in size. Complete it early in the day. This habit builds momentum. It reinforces the identity of someone who acts rather than someone who postpones. Once the first action is completed, the rest of the day feels more manageable. Progress reduces stress. Movement creates confidence. Over time, this habit reduces avoidance and strengthens consistency. Building consistency. Consistency is more important than intensity. You do not need to transform your thinking overnight. You need to repeat small habits daily. Pause before reacting. Define problems clearly. Choose next steps. Take small actions. Reflect briefly. These habits reinforce each other. They create a stable pattern of behavior. They reduce the time you spend in problem mode. Consistency builds reliability. You begin to trust yourself to respond effectively. Removing unhelpful habits. Building solution-focused habits also requires reducing habits that keep you stuck. Limit excessive complaining. Reduce repetitive rumination. Avoid unnecessary discussions about problems without action. Reduce distractions that delay important tasks. Notice when you are dwelling without moving. Redirect your attention toward action. You do not need to eliminate all negative thoughts. You need to prevent them from dominating your behavior. The environment factor. Your environment influences your habits. If your workspace is cluttered, thinking becomes harder. If your schedule is chaotic, action becomes inconsistent. If your surroundings encourage distraction, focus becomes difficult. Create an environment that supports clarity and action. Keep your workspace organized. Keep a visible list of priorities. Reduce unnecessary interruptions. Schedule time for focused work. A supportive environment makes solution-focused habits easier to maintain. Tracking progress. Track your habits briefly each day. Did I pause before reacting? Did I define problems clearly? Did I take action on key tasks? Did I adjust when needed? Tracking reinforces consistency. It provides feedback. It shows progress over time. You do not need detailed tracking. A simple checkmark system is enough. The goal is awareness and reinforcement. Weekly review. At the end of each week, review your progress. What problems did I handle well? Where did I stay in problem mode too long? What habits helped me? What will I improve next week? This weekly review strengthens learning. It helps you refine your approach. It keeps you focused on growth. The identity shift. As you build daily habits, your identity begins to shift. You stop seeing yourself as someone overwhelmed by problems. You begin to see yourself as someone who addresses them. Identity is built through repetition. Each time you pause instead of reacting, you reinforce control. Each time you act instead of delaying, you reinforce progress. Each time you adjust instead of complaining, you reinforce resilience. Over time, solution-focused thinking becomes natural. It becomes your default. Habits build a solution-focused life. Daily routines create consistent responses. Consistent responses create progress. Progress builds confidence. Start small. Repeat daily. Pause before reacting. Clarify problems. Choose steps. Take action. Reflect briefly. You do not need dramatic change. You need steady practice. Habits build a solution-focused life. Chapter 10. Leading yourself through challenges. Every problem tests your ability to lead yourself. You may not manage a team. You may not hold a formal leadership role, but you are responsible for directing your own thinking, decisions, and actions. Self-leadership determines how you respond to pressure, uncertainty, mistakes, and setbacks. It determines whether you stay in problem mode or move into solution mode. When situations are difficult, it is easy to look outward. You may focus on circumstances, other people, or past events. While these factors matter, they do not determine your response. Your response is your responsibility. Self-leadership is the ability to guide yourself toward solutions even when conditions are imperfect. It is the ability to remain steady, act deliberately, and move forward without waiting for ideal circumstances. This chapter is about developing ownership, responsibility, and internal directions so that you can lead yourself effectively through challenges. Ownership, the starting point. Ownership is the foundation of self-leadership. Ownership does not mean blaming yourself for everything. It means accepting responsibility for your response. It means recognizing that while you cannot control every situation, you can control how you address it. When you take ownership, you stop waiting for someone else to fix the problem. You stop hoping conditions will change on their own. You begin asking, what can I do now? What is within my control? What step can I take? Ownership creates movement. Lack of ownership creates stagnation. When you adopt an ownership mindset, you focus on solutions instead of excuses. You direct your energy toward action rather than complaint. This does not eliminate external challenges. It ensures that you remain proactive despite them. Responsibility and direction. Responsibility provides direction. When you accept responsibility for your actions and decisions, you gain control over your progress. Without responsibility, you may drift. You may react to situations instead of directing them. You may wait for clarity instead of creating it. Responsibility means defining your priorities, making decisions, taking action, adjusting when needed, continuing forward. You do not need perfect conditions to take responsibility. You need a willingness to act. Responsibility builds confidence. Each time you take action and adjust, you reinforce your ability to handle challenges. Confidence through solving. Confidence is not built through avoidance. It is built through solving. When you address problems directly, you prove to yourself that you can handle them. Each solution reinforces your sense of capability. Each adjustment strengthens your resilience. If you avoid problems, confidence weakens. Unresolved issues create stress and uncertainty. Confidence grows from repeated action. It comes from solving small problems daily. It comes from responding to challenges calmly and consistently. You do not need to feel confident to act. You act to become confident. Staying steady in chaos. Challenges often bring chaos. Plans change. Information is incomplete. Pressure increases. Others may react emotionally. Self-leadership requires steadiness in these moments. Steadiness does not mean ignoring difficulty. It means maintaining clarity and direction despite it. When chaos appears, pause. Clarify the issue. Identify what matters most. Choose a step. Act calmly. Steadiness reduces panic. Panic reduces clarity. Without clarity, solutions become harder to see. By remaining steady, you create stability for yourself and for others. Stability allows progress. Long-term perspective. Self-leadership involves long-term thinking. Not every problem needs to be solved immediately. Some require patience and consistent effort. When facing a challenge, consider, what is the long-term goal? What is the next step toward it? What can I learn from this situation? How will this matter in the future? Long-term perspective reduces emotional intensity. It helps you avoid overreacting to temporary setbacks. It keeps you focused on progress rather than short-term discomfort. Most problems are temporary. Most setbacks are manageable. Most situations improve with steady effort. Keeping a long-term view helps you remain calm and focused. Self-talk and direction. How you speak to yourself influences your behavior. If your internal dialogue is negative or dramatic, your actions may reflect that. If your internal dialogue is clear and practical, your actions will improve. Replace unproductive self-talk with solution-focused language. Instead of, "I can't handle this," say, "I will take the next step." Instead of, "This is too much," say, "I will address one part at a time." Instead of, "I always fail," say, "I will adjust and continue." This shift does not deny difficulty. It creates direction. Your internal language should guide you toward action, not away from it. Discipline over mood. Self-leadership relies on discipline more than mood. You will not always feel motivated. You will not always feel confident. You will not always feel ready. If you wait for the right mood, progress will be inconsistent. Discipline means acting despite mood. It means completing necessary steps even when you do not feel like it. It means maintaining routines and habits that support progress. Discipline creates stability. Stability creates momentum. Momentum creates results. Mood may influence your energy. It should not control your direction. Leading through setbacks. Setbacks test self-leadership. When things do not go as planned, your response determines the outcome. A setback can lead to discouragement and delay, or it can lead to adjustment and continued progress. When a setback occurs, pause briefly. Review what happened. Identify what can be learned. Choose a next step. Continue. Do not spend excessive time analyzing the setback. Learn quickly and move forward. Prolonged focus on what went wrong delays improvement. Setbacks are part of progress. Self-leadership keeps you moving despite them. The self-leadership framework. Use this framework during challenging situations. Step 1. Accept responsibility. Acknowledge your role in responding to the situation. Step 2. Clarify the issue. Define the problem accurately. Step 3. Identify control. Focus on what you can influence. Step 4. Choose a step. Select a practical action. Step 5. Act. Move forward deliberately. Step 6. Review and adjust. Learn from the outcome and refine your approach. This framework keeps you focused and directed. Daily self-leadership practices. Strengthen self-leadership with daily habits. Set clear priorities each morning. Take responsibility for key tasks. Address problems early. Maintain calm under pressure. Reflect briefly at the end of the day. Ask yourself, did I take ownership today? Did I act despite discomfort? Did I remain steady under pressure? Did I move forward? These questions reinforce leadership behavior. Influence through example. When you lead yourself effectively, you influence others. People notice steadiness. They notice clarity. They notice action. You do not need authority to create influence. Your behavior sets a standard. It encourages others to respond calmly and constructively. By leading yourself, you contribute to a solution-focused environment. Self-leadership is the ability to guide yourself through difficulty with clarity and responsibility. Take ownership of your response. Act despite uncertainty. Remain steady under pressure. Adjust when needed. Continue forward. You do not need perfect conditions to lead yourself. You need direction. Leaders solve first and complain last. Chapter 11. Becoming a solution-focused person for life. A solution-focused mindset is not a temporary strategy. It is an identity. It is not something you apply only during major problems. It is something you live daily. You are not defined by the absence of problems. You are defined by how you respond to them. If you consistently pause, clarify, decide, act, and adjust, you become someone who solves. If you consistently dwell, delay, avoid, and react, you remain someone who stays stuck. This chapter is about making solution-focused thinking part of who you are, not just something you try occasionally, but something you practice consistently over the long term. Becoming a solution-focused person is not dramatic. It is steady. It is built through repeated choices that reinforce direction, clarity, and action. Identity before outcome. Most people try to change outcomes before they change identity. They focus on solving individual problems but do not change how they see themselves. A stronger approach is to adopt an identity. I am someone who responds. I am someone who adjusts. I am someone who acts. I am someone who solves. When this becomes your identity, your behavior aligns with it. You no longer wait for motivation. You no longer dwell on problems longer than necessary. You move into action more quickly. Identity shapes behavior. Behavior shapes results. Each time you respond constructively to a problem, you reinforce the identity of someone who solves. Over time, this becomes automatic. Long-term thinking. Becoming solution-focused requires long-term thinking. You will face many challenges over time, unexpected changes, mistakes, delays, and uncertainty. Some will be minor, some will be significant. If your mindset depends on everything going smoothly, you will feel constant stress. If your mindset expects challenges and focuses on responding to them, you remain steady. Long-term thinking asks, how do I want to handle problems consistently? What habits support that approach? How can I improve my response over time? This perspective reduces emotional intensity. It keeps you focused on growth rather than temporary setbacks. You do not need perfect days. You need consistent direction, continuous improvement. A solution-focused life involves continuous improvement. You do not reach a point where problems stop appearing. You reach a point where you handle them more effectively. After each challenge, reflect briefly. What did I do well? What can I improve? What will I do next time? This reflection strengthens learning. It helps you refine your approach. It prevents repeated mistakes. Continuous improvement is gradual. Small adjustments accumulate. Over time, your responses become faster, calmer, and more effective. You do not need dramatic changes. You need steady refinement. Calm resilience. Resilience is the ability to recover quickly from difficulty. Calm resilience means recovering without panic. When something goes wrong, pause, clarify, choose a step, act, adjust. This pattern reduces stress. It shortens recovery time. It keeps you moving forward. Resilience does not mean you never feel discouraged. It means you do not stay discouraged for long. You return to action quickly. The faster you recover, the less impact problems have. Maintaining focus on solutions. Over time, it becomes easy to drift back into problem-focused thinking. Stress, fatigue, and pressure can pull your attention toward what is wrong instead of what can be done. To maintain a solution-focused mindset, remind yourself regularly, what is the next step? What is within my control? What improves this situation? These questions keep you oriented toward action. You may still feel frustration. You may still feel uncertainty, but your direction remains forward. Focus determines momentum. Momentum determines progress. Building a supportive environment. Your environment influences your mindset. Surround yourself with people and systems that encourage solutions rather than complaints. Choose conversations that focus on improvement. Work with people who value clarity and action. Create routines that support progress. You cannot control every environment, but you can influence how you participate in it. You can model solution-focused behavior. You can steer conversations toward progress. Over time, your environment becomes more constructive. Handling larger challenges. Some challenges will be significant. They may involve major changes, losses, or uncertainties. A solution-focused mindset does not eliminate difficulty in these situations. It provides direction. During larger challenges, break the situation into parts. Focus on immediate steps. Seek useful information. Adjust as needed. Continue moving. You do not need to solve everything immediately. You need to maintain direction. Even during difficult periods, small actions create stability. Stability supports resilience. The discipline of consistency. Consistency is what turns a strategy into a way of life. You will not always feel disciplined. You will not always feel clear. You will not always feel confident. Act anyway. Pause when needed. Clarify the issue. Choose a step. Take action. Adjust. Each repetition strengthens the habit. Each habit reinforces identity. Over time, you spend less time in problem mode and more time in solution mode. Teaching others through example. When you become solution-focused, others notice. They observe how you respond to problems. They see how you remain calm. They see how you move forward. Your behavior influences your environment. You encourage others to respond constructively. You create stability in teams, families, and communities. You do not need to instruct others directly. Your example is enough. Solution-focused behavior spreads through observation. The lifelong practice. Becoming solution-focused is not a one-time achievement. It is a lifelong practice. You will continue to encounter problems. You will continue to adjust. You will continue to learn. The goal is not to eliminate difficulty. The goal is to handle it well. Each problem becomes an opportunity to reinforce your identity. Each solution strengthens your confidence. Each adjustment improves your ability. Over time, you become someone who does not fear problems. You trust your ability to respond. A personal commitment. To make this mindset lasting, make a simple commitment. When problems appear, I will pause. I will define the issue clearly. I will choose a step. I will act. I will adjust. I will continue. This commitment does not guarantee easy outcomes. It guarantees direction. Direction creates progress. Becoming a solution-focused person is a long-term choice. It is built through daily habits, steady thinking, and consistent action. You do not need to eliminate problems from your life. You need to respond to them differently. Adopt the identity of someone who solves. Think long-term. Improve continuously. Stay calm under pressure. Act consistently. Your mindset determines your direction. Final commitment. The solution commitment. You will always face problems. Some will be small and routine. Some will be unexpected. Some will be complex. Some will arrive when you feel prepared. Some will arrive when you do not. You cannot remove problems from your life. You can change how you respond to them. This book has not been about eliminating difficulty. It has been about reducing the time you spend trapped inside it. It has been about building a disciplined approach to thinking, deciding, and acting so that you continue moving even when conditions are imperfect. A solution-focused life is not a life without friction. It is a life with direction. The difference is significant. When you stay in problem mode, you circle. When you move into solution mode, you progress. The commitment you make now determines which direction you take when the next challenge appears. Recognizing the pattern. Think about how problems have affected you in the past. Have you stayed in analysis too long? Have you delayed decisions? Have you avoided action? Have you reacted emotionally before thinking clearly? Have you spent time complaining without moving forward? These patterns are common. They do not make you incapable. They make you human. But patterns can change. Each time you choose to pause instead of panic, you change the pattern. Each time you define the issue clearly, you change the pattern. Each time you choose a step and act, you change the pattern. Change is not built on one decision. It is built on repeated decisions. Personal responsibility. A solution-focused mindset begins with responsibility. Responsibility does not mean blaming yourself for every problem. It means accepting that your response is yours to direct. You cannot control every situation. You can control how long you stay stuck in it. When something goes wrong, you can choose to dwell. Or you can choose to respond. When something is unclear, you can choose to delay. Or you can choose to define and act. When something fails, you can choose to stop. Or you can choose to adjust and continue. Responsibility gives you direction. It keeps you from waiting for circumstances to improve before you move. The commitment to pause. The first part of the solution commitment is the pause. When a problem appears, pause. When emotions rise, pause. When pressure increases, pause. The pause creates space. It allows you to step out of reaction and into response. You do not need a long pause. You need a deliberate one. During the pause, breathe. Then ask, what is the actual issue? What matters most right now? What is the next step? This habit alone can change how you handle challenges. The commitment to clarity. After the pause comes clarity. Define the problem simply. Separate facts from assumptions. Remove exaggeration. Identify what is within your control. Clarity reduces stress. Clarity improves decisions. Clarity makes action possible. Without clarity, problems feel larger than they are. With clarity, they become tasks. You are committing to seek clarity quickly. Not perfect clarity, but sufficient clarity to move. The commitment to decision. Progress requires decisions. You will not always have perfect information. You will not always feel confident. You will not always know the ideal solution. Choose anyway. Choose the next step. Choose a workable option. Choose direction over hesitation. Decisions create movement. Movement creates feedback. Feedback improves future decisions. You are committing to decide when direction is needed, even if certainty is incomplete. The commitment to action. Action turns intention into progress. You are committing to act when a step is clear. Not to wait for perfect conditions. Not to wait for complete confidence. Not to wait for the right mood. Act on what you know. Start with small steps. Build momentum. Action reduces stress. Action creates clarity. Action builds confidence. You are committing to move forward consistently. The commitment to adjustment. Not every action will work as expected. Some solutions will need revision. Some plans will change. Some decisions will require adjustment. This is not failure. It is feedback. You are committing to adjust calmly. To review outcomes without panic. To refine your approach. To continue moving. Adaptability keeps progress alive. The commitment to consistency. A solution-focused mindset is not built in a single moment. It is built through consistent practice. You are committing to daily habits, pausing before reacting, defining problems clearly, choosing next steps, taking action, reviewing and adjusting. These habits reinforce each other. They create a stable pattern. They make solution-focused thinking your default response. Consistency matters more than intensity. Small daily shifts create lasting change. Handling future challenges. There will be moments when you feel overwhelmed. There will be times when problems feel larger than usual. During those moments, return to the basics. Pause, clarify, decide, act, adjust. Do not try to solve everything at once. Solve the next thing. Direction matters more than speed. Movement matters more than perfection. You will not handle every situation perfectly. You do not need to. You need to handle them consistently. The identity of a solver. As you repeat these commitments, your identity changes. You stop seeing yourself as someone who gets stuck. You start seeing yourself as someone who responds. You trust your ability to handle problems. You trust your ability to adjust. You trust your ability to move forward. This trust reduces anxiety. It reduces hesitation. It strengthens resilience. You become someone who does not avoid problems. You become someone who solves them. A final reflection. Consider the direction you want your life to take. Do you want to spend time circling problems? Or do you want to spend time building solutions? Do you want to wait for clarity? Or create it through action? Do you want to remain stuck in analysis? Or move forward through decisions? Your answers shape your path. You do not need dramatic change. You need steady commitment. The solution commitment. Make this commitment clear and simple. When problems appear, I will pause. I will seek clarity. I will choose a step. I will act. I will adjust. I will continue. I will not wait for perfect conditions. I will not stay in complaint. I will not delay unnecessarily. I will move forward with discipline. Problems will continue to exist. My response will determine my progress. A solution-focused life is built through consistent choices. You will face challenges. You will encounter uncertainty. You will make mistakes. You will need to adjust. But you will move. Each step forward strengthens confidence. Each adjustment builds resilience. Each solution reinforces direction. You are not defined by the problems you face. You are defined by how you respond. Problems are constant. Solutions are chosen. Choose to solve.